Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to yet another video here on the channel. We got some major news this week. First of which, not relevant, this week Tuesday, Axiom has just turned 21 years old, which means that I officially can legally consume alcohol. Anyway, the biggest story of the week, obviously. The news actually broke a day before my 21st birthday. Thank you for the unexpected birthday gift, I suppose. So Elon Musk, yes, you know who I'm talking about, the man, the myth, and the legend himself has just purchased Twitter and is now the owner of Twitter. Now, here's a little bit of a memory refresher as to how this actually happened. So, Elon Musk, originally, he bought like 9 or 10% of its stock, and we're talking several billions of dollars, and there's been some talks going around between the time he bought the stock, he bought the 9% stake, and present day about him like getting a seat on the board because he owns a certain percent of the stake. Usually when you own a major corporation, like even if it's like 5 or 10%, that's like billions of dollars. So you still basically get a seat on the table. And that's what Elon Musk did earlier this month. He bought 9 to 10% of Twitter's stake, and he was appointed to have a seat on the Twitter board, which he rejected. He was in discussions of basically buying the whole company and not just hold like a 9-10% stake. He just wants the whole enchilada, the entire Twitter company as a whole. And he did for around 44 billion stack of cash. Twitter came to the agreement and Elon officially bought Twitter for just $44 billion stack of cash. Now, Twitter obviously is a site that I have a love-hate relationship, like most people do. Believe me, I'm not the only person who complains. And Elon Musk also complained about the site. And for this entire month, including portions of last month, there were talks about him either making a competitor or actually buying the site as a whole or investing in the site so it can be reformed. If I do remember correctly, I think Styx was one of those people who gave him the suggestion to reform Twitter or invest in one of its competitors or create a competitor of your own. Before the news broke, I'm pretty sure you're aware that there has been many different alternatives to Twitter in response to how much of a cesspool it is. A lot of them have not been successful because A, they don't work, or B, they are even much bigger cesspools than Twitter is. And Elon actually made a point right after he bought Twitter that Twitter is basically like the public town square of the internet, where ideas and free thought is allowed to be spoken, and also where healthy debates can be held. Like on Truth Social, which is Trump's network that he created, I'm still on the waiting list on that site. I don't know if that site still has potential, which I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. Especially with this news breaking. Like, when you really think about it, what other alternatives to Twitter that are just as good? Parler was said to be one of them, but that site shut down, and I believe its creator, who is also the founder and CEO of Parler, is currently on trial by the January 6th committee, even though I think he had no direct involvement in that whatsoever. Getter also works, although they claim to be for free speech, even though they banned Nick Fuentes. Also, at one point, the app was completely busted on my phone for some reason, claiming that my phone was jailbroken. I can assure you that my phone is not jailbroken whatsoever, and no jailbreak is possible on iOS 15 due to enhanced security measures and a sealed and digitally encrypted root file system. In case you're wondering, app's now working for me finally since the newest update. Thank you, Jason Miller. Of course, you got Gab, which is also used as a Twitter alternative. I don't use it as often because it doesn't come with an app, so it's definitely less convenient for me to use it. I try to be active on Gab. For some reason, it's just not for me, even though I occasionally repost things or whatever they call retweeting on Gab. I can still use the account. I still use it occasionally, so be sure to follow me there. Link is in the description below. So some new tech Twitter alternatives definitely have some caveats and some holes in them. Like with Gab, it doesn't come with the app. The web app with Safari is completely terrible. Parler worked for a while until it was shut down with its creator on trial by the January 6th committee. Getter, although claims to be for free speech, still bans people like Nick Fuentes. Truth Social is having a bit of a rocky start with people, including myself, still on the waiting list. And the fact that you can't criticize Trump on the platform makes its free speech reputation a little bit more sketchy. So what's the solution? Well, even though you can always invest in a new tech alternative, or you can just create your own because, well, you're fucking Elon Musk, you're a billionaire, and thankfully I have multiple people who agree with me on this. It would be a better option because of Twitter's size and popularity. The best option is to buy into Twitter, take over Twitter, reform it, and make it actually work. Just transform the site from toxic cesspool to a legitimate social media site. I'm pretty sure that this is no surprise to anyone. Over the years, especially more recently, if you take a look at Twitter's stock, Twitter has been one of the most undervalued Silicon Valley giants for a pretty long time. This is a site that garners millions and billions of users yearly since it was first built. Despite the number of users, despite its size, the stock price of Twitter, one of the lowest and most undervalued. Back in the days, like in 2015, when Twitter was actually a usable site, normally Twitter's value would be explained by the high operating costs because of the number of users, and of course the number of tweets that are sent worldwide yearly. In recent years, since the 2016 election, Twitter's stock value has been declining, users have been declining, everything about the site declining. Why is that? The reason for the user decline, and of course the reason of why Twitter stock has been undervalued for such a long time now, is due to a series of reasons. Twitter, especially in recent years, has essentially killed off a lot of its value by alienating users. It is a very toxic and cringeworthy cesspool. It has very extreme and off-the-wall TOS. For instance, it allows for very graphic content, and there are a ton of bots and crypto bros and a ton of spam on the site, but you're not allowed to talk about gender on the platform. Like, you're allowed to spam crypto scams, but you're not allowed to say that male and female actually exist. One big example, of course, is locking out a news site. The New York Post has been around for such a long time. Twitter, a couple years back, decided to shut down their account because of a story that didn't fit the narrative. Of course you remember the Hunter Biden laptop story that went around mid-2020, right before the 2020 election. Think what you want about it. Everyone who posted this article got flagged or shut down entirely, and of course, the New York Post, a mainline newspaper, gets banned just for publishing the story. The reason why the New York Post even made the story is not to push an agenda on somebody or spread disinformation. It's because it was newsworthy. The job of a journalist is to publish a story even if it involves a political candidate running for office. There was no bias in it whatsoever. They're not trying to deliberately influence people. There was no evidence of Russian disinformation in the New York Post. They were just doing their jobs and trying to give the consumers and the American people the news. Think what you want about the laptop story, it's news. News. That's all it is. You can give your own thoughts and opinions about it, but on an unbiased perspective, it was still a newsworthy thing at the time. It's not hate speech or Russian misinfo. It's news. And turns out, 2 years after Twitter started blacklisting people for posting that article, the story then turned out to be confirmed true. Multiple legacy media outlets even confirmed it. Article from Vox, March 25th, 2022. No evidence has emerged to back up suspicions from former intelligence officials backed by Biden himself that the laptop's leak was a Russian plot. New York Times, March 16th, 2022. Those emails were obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. That sounds familiar. And the Washington Post, March 30th, 2022. The vast majority of the data and most of the nearly 129,000 emails it contained could not be verified by either of the two security experts who reviewed the data for the Post. Yep, every single one of them literally said exactly what the New York Post said 2 years ago. Anybody who dares to share the article, some of these people weren't even politically affiliated. A lot of these people, by the way, were neutral politically. They still got their account shut down just for sharing an article which had no bias and in no way was Russian disinformation. It's just news. That's one of the big problems Twitter has. If something doesn't fit their agenda, gone in a blink of an eye. Extreme wokeness, and I mean big time extreme wokeness. It's literally the best way I could describe Twitter. It's just evolved into just another Tumblr. Every time a topic trends, whether it's a name of a conservative pundit, think tank, or politician, it's just nothing but a bunch of pink and blue-haired losers complaining that that said person is a Nazi because they're conservative. Twitter has literally become the epitome of Goodwin's Law. And of course, the most obvious one, and the reason why these new tech sites exist to begin with, and also why Elon Musk even bought Twitter to begin with, banning large numbers of users. You know, they've banned Alex Jones, they've banned Nick Fuentes, they've banned Milo Yiannopoulos, they banned Sargon of Akkad, Vince Dow, Chris from Red Pill Philosophy, James O'Keefe. They banned Trump. They banned a sitting president of the United States, and they also banned MTG, a sitting member of Congress. The whole purpose of Twitter was to be this public town square on the internet, having healthy debates, exchanging different ideas, agreeing and disagreeing with each other, calling people out for saying and doing stupid shit. Think what you want about all these people that got banned. Hell, I'd like to see Rebecca Jones reinstated on Twitter, and I don't like her. So from the extreme TOS to the wokeness, banning people, blacklisting news stories, the problem is that when you do all or any of this, you're alienating a shit ton of people who otherwise might use the platform. Therefore, the value of the stock drops and the value of the company drops. I mean, when you really think about it, it does explain Twitter's decline over the years. If I had any advice to Elon Musk, from all sides, the economic side, the socio-political side, and especially the business side, the best advice to Musk, since he bought Twitter and now he's the owner, it would be to unban all these people and allow Twitter what it was intended to be, the public town square where people, as long as they're not violating the law, doing anything illegal, can speak freely and exchange ideas and have healthy debates with people. Plain and simple. You don't have to do anything else. Unban all these people. Unban all of the major creators that were improperly labeled as alt-right, far-right, that were improperly labeled as extreme, white nationalist, white supremacist, or neo-Nazi. A lot of names, definitely including Trump, would come to mind. Although some of his key advisors stated that even if he does get unbanned on the platform, he will not be coming back and he'll be strictly focused more on Truth Social. Although I don't think he's going to be, active there as much. So when the news of Elon Musk buying Twitter first broke out, supposedly, the offices in Twitter, like that scene from the episode of SpongeBob, where you see inside of SpongeBob's brain, and they're all shredding everything, and everything is on fire, and the whole office space inside of his brain are like in complete panic mode? Yeah, that's exactly what's happening in the Twitter offices right now. A lot of these people inside of Twitter are deeply concerned that now that the beans have essentially been spilt in the wake of the man himself buying Twitter, I believe there's like this leaked audio recording of one of the board meetings. They know damn well that they're going to be losing their jobs. After all they've done, they're either going to be fired or they're just going to quit before that even happens. Although there's been a huge outcry that Nazis are now going to take over Twitter because the man himself supports free speech, that's not necessarily going to be the case. He does support free speech, yes, although he has been putting a lot of tweets out telling people how he's going to run the platform differently. One of the tweets did say that he was going to, at some point, piss off both the far left and the far right, but the majority of the platform, the vast majority of Twitter, are people that are politically neutral. That's 80 to 90% of the site, according to him. No, there's not going to be a rise of Nazis, and no, there's not going to be a purge at the same time. I think he's trying to fix a broken platform. He clearly knows what he's doing. For me personally, at least, since Musk took over Twitter, I haven't seen anything too major happen on Twitter just yet. I mean, that should be pretty obvious because changes never happen right away. That doesn't necessarily mean changes are not going to happen. Again, there are things that I want Musk to do to make Twitter a much better platform than it is right now. And believe me, he's got a lot of work to do. I'm hoping, with Musk as the owner of Twitter, the sole owner of the platform, I am holding hope that Elon will help Twitter actually become a usable platform. That's all he has to do. There are obviously much smaller goals he needs to go through first to achieve that big major goal of making Twitter more usable. And I'm hoping he can pull it off. With him on board and him as the owner, fingers crossed that Twitter actually becomes a legitimate platform instead of being a complete and total toxic disgrace that is only used for 3 things, and 3 things only: DM machine, cesspit, and pointless crippling depression. That's all Twitter is right now. And do keep in mind, Twitter has not always been a cesspit that it is right now. Never has been. Twitter, especially before the 2016 election, used to be a legitimate platform as a way to communicate with other creators, other celebrities, and other people from around the world. It was a way to get interesting commentary, whether it's about sports, about music, or about anything at all. For instance, Optimus occasionally on his Twitter account would talk about music, or he will talk about sports. Twitter has always been like this ever since it first started. A way to get live running, real world commentary from all sorts of people around the world on any topic. But unfortunately, a good chunk of some of that commentary has been banned. And of course, debates on the site are not actually healthy debates with one another. At times, they're considered wars. Now, can Elon Musk take Twitter and turn it back into what it originally was? I think so, and I definitely hope so. I think the man himself clearly knows what he's doing. I don't think it stops at free speech. Truth be told, he's in it for the money. And of course, due to Twitter being undervalued, thanks to the problems that it has, unbanning people who are unfairly banned, and actually making the platform more usable, or making the platform actually usable for once, like it used to be, consider that a win-win situation. Elon's in it for the money, actually makes the platform usable, people become unbanned, more people actually join Twitter, Twitter stock rises, and he makes more money. Win-win situation. I'm obviously hoping for positive changes to be made on the platform. If he's aware of Twitter's problems, if he cares deeply about free speech, and if he's also in it for the money at the same time, that positive outcome might actually happen. I'm hoping, I hope this isn't just some sort of too good to be true moment. I hope this actually becomes reality. I hope the platform is finally no longer a cesspit. I'm hoping Elon actually makes this platform usable for once. As of recording, he hasn't done anything major yet so far, despite all the leftoids on and at Twitter freaking out. But I should remain optimistic for Twitter now. I want to see on Twitter, I want to see Alex Jones. I want to see Milo Yiannopoulos. I want to see Nick Fuentes. I want to see Laura Loomer. I want to see Sargon of Akkad. I definitely want to see Trump, Baked Alaska, Vince Dow, and all of these people. Again, think what you want about them. I still want them back because we deserve to be able to have the free flow of information as long as you're not violating any laws. That, by the way, was what the internet was initially about to begin with. And it is also especially what websites like Twitter initially were all about years ago before it became woke. Even Steve Wozniak agrees with that statement. The dude thinks banning people for no reason is stupid. So I wish the best for Twitter. I wish the best for Elon now that he is the owner of Twitter. But what do I know? I hope now as owner of Twitter, I hope Elon actually makes a positive impact on Twitter. Because this site has been shit for a very long time. Musk needs to make positive changes to Twitter in order for it to succeed. He hasn't done anything just yet, but it's only a matter of time. He's only been owner for just a short amount of time as of recording. What do I know? But I hope the man himself, the legend now as owner of Twitter, makes a big positive impact on the platform and actually makes the site usable for once instead of what it is right now. I don't know what he's gonna do. Again, I have no clue. He hasn't done anything just yet. Still, I don't really know for sure what impact he is going to make on Twitter as its sole owner. The only thing we can do is stay optimistic, especially with the tweets that he's been putting out, and just wait patiently until major news breaks out. Of course, I will keep you updated as always and see what has happened. He has been tweeting a lot of things. That's why I remain optimistic and obviously hopeful for the future of Twitter. But he hasn't done anything yet. And we really don't know what he's really gonna do for Twitter. I mean, if he really is in it for the money, he'd actually make Twitter a much better platform than it is right now. And again, considering the tweets he has been posting. Even though he hasn't officially done anything just yet, and we don't know what he's gonna do to the platform, I think it's still best to remain optimistic for the future of Twitter for once. But anyway, as always, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, and if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias, links are in the description below, and as always, most importantly, just like what I say at the end of every single video, also in the link in the description, there are also links to several other sites that I use besides YouTube. Keep in mind that there's always a chance a topic that I talk about might end up being an exclusive. If Optimus decides to finally open up his OptiWorld platform to other creators to use, I'll be sure to hop onto it immediately. So follow me on all those sites while you can, as there will be exclusives on these sites. So don't miss out. Follow me on all those sites. And of course, before I wrap this up, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Elon's acquisition of Twitter. Do you think it's going to be a good thing? Do you think it's going to be a bad thing? Do you think people are finally going to be unbanned for once after being falsely banned? Do you think Elon Musk is only doing this because he's in it for the money? Is he going to make a good impact on Twitter? Is he going to make a bad impact on Twitter? I would like to hear all of your thoughts on the comment section down below to see what are your thoughts on Elon finally buying Twitter. So be sure to leave your thoughts on the story in the comment section down below. Anyway, as always, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.